Good afternoon, everyone. In about 5 minutes, we'll begin with the University of Florida head coach Mike White, and student athletes will be available right here in the main interview room. The student athletes not joining us in the main interview room will be available in the Florida locker room. Again, we begin at approximately 2:50 p.m. After 20 minutes at 3:10 p.m., the student athletes here on the dais will make their way to breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are in the Delta Sky 60 suite on the far side of the media work area. You guys can follow the crowd or just follow the hallway or ask one of the NCAA media volunteers to help you make your way down there. The entire time for the entire 40 minutes, head coach Mike White will be available here with us in the main interview room, and the student athletes that will not be in the main interview room and will not be in the breakout rooms are available in the locker room. 2:50 to 3:30, the University of Florida is available. And then from 3:40 to 4:20, South Carolina will be available. Just a couple reminders. When joining us here in the main interview room, we ask that you please silence your cell phone. No flash photography of any kind in this room, and no video recording devices, including handheld cameras, mini cameras, cell phones, camera phones. That also includes social media, please. No video in this room. You're welcome to do that in the breakout areas. After 20 minutes, you're welcome to do that in the locker rooms, in the hallways, just not in this room. No video, please. Satellite information is available up here on the dais and also in the back of the room with Ron. And the University of Florida has arrived. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good. How are you guys today? I bet pretty good.
Oh,
How you doing, Coach?
great. You?
I got it. It's okay. Hi, Denver.
Oh, but I gotta be on the
We're
end.
joined right now by the head coach, Mike White, as well as student athletes Devin Robinson, Justin Leon, Chris Chioza, Gavarius Hayes, and Casey Hill. Their teammates are in the locker room and available right now if you want to stop by there. We'll ask Coach to give us a couple of thoughts, and then we'll start questions for everyone. Coach.
I'm just happy to be here. Proud of these guys. Really quick turn, of course. Great opportunity for us tomorrow against a team we're very familiar with, of course. The South Carolina team's had a tremendous year. Program we have a lot of respect for, of course. I think both teams, fortunately, with this really quick turn, especially our extremely quick turn, the familiarity, I think, is fortunate for both of us. It'll come down to concentrating on ourselves as much as the opponent and doing some of the little things, executing some of the stuff that South Carolina knows is coming, and vice versa. But great opportunity.
Questions for Coach or any of the student athletes? Let's start on the right by the big column.
Hey, this is for Chris. Tom Jones from the Tampa Bay Times. Chris, what was your night last night like after you left here? Were you up late? Who did you hear from? And any concern about getting over that to get ready for tomorrow's game?
I heard from everybody that probably I've ever met. It was a long night, but I tried, not to talk to too many people, just my family and people that I'm pretty close with. I tried to get my rest. It was tough, though. It was exciting, so I just tried my best to get off my feet and just lay in bed and try to fall asleep.
To the left side in the front.
Coach, last night you had said you were lucky that you didn't have a timeout. So two questions here related. Would that have been an absolute no doubt about timeout situation? And in situations where you have to make that decision, whether to call one or not, what goes into that decision?
Yeah, sure. I was glad we didn't have one, of course, especially a half hour after Chris makes a shot he made. It was easier to say that last night than right now, but I don't want to back off of that sentiment. If we had called a timeout, who knows what Greg does and how they line up and match up and what type of defense that we see. I think with us, our strength, especially in the full court, versus pressure, late clock situations, of course, we have two of the fastest guys in college basketball. And so with this particular lineup, again, I probably stick by it in that I'm not sure we would have used one, and that's probably been the case 5 or 6 times this year where we had one late half or late clock, late game, where especially with both these guys in the game, if they can get ahead of steam in 4 seconds, they can cover a lot of ground, and Chris obviously showed that.
In the front on the left side, Gene.
This is for Chris. Number one, you were scrolling through your text messages in the locker room last night. Did you ever actually count the number of text messages that you got after the game? And as a follow-up, the shot that you made, is that even something you would even, just in practice, during your off time, just go ahead and try it?
On my phone, it told me I had like 200 and something. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot. And, I was able to press read all. So, but in my off, like when I'm just in the gym or something, I might do that 2 or 3 times the whole time I'm in there, and normally doesn't go in. But
Did you think the shot was going down when you did release the pass?
I wasn't sure. It felt good coming out of my hands, and I knew I had a chance to go in, but I didn't know if it was for sure.
We're going to use the left-hand microphone for Jake.
Jake Winterman, ESPN Gainesville. Casey, I know you said coming into New York that you thought that this team was better than the 2013-2014 team because of depth. What about last night's game proved that again?
Like you said, we got Cheese. He came off the bench and he played good for us. He hit a big shot, and it proves that it's depth. We do got a lot of depth on this team.
We're going to use the left microphone to the right of the aisle. Len?
Len Robbins, New York Post. Chris, for the first time that you face South Carolina, when you face that defense, emotionally, what is it like? What do you experience?
It's hectic. They have guys flying all over the court. Anytime you try to get a shot off, you have 2 or 3 guys on you. They're just energetic, especially at the beginning of the game. They don't give you any easy looks in the paint. The best bet is to go inside out and just move the ball around until you get an open outside shot.
Next question, we're going to use that left microphone again to the right side. Andy?
Chris, right here. How many times have you watched the video?
I don't know. Every time I look somewhere, somebody's sending it to me, or I see it on Instagram or something. So I've seen it quite a bit, and I enjoy it every time I watch it. So.
And you'd like to follow up?
Quick follow-up to that point. If they had been able to make you change direction maybe one step, how much do you think that would have affected your ability to get that shot off?
I think I still would have got it off. I had, like a half second or a little bit more once I let the ball go. So I think I still could have got a shot off. I don't know if the result would have been the same, though, but I feel like I still could have got a good one off.
All the way to the front on the right side. Adam?
Yeah, for Chris or Casey or anybody who wants to answer it, what's the most disrespectful thing you heard about the SEC this year or recently, and what does it say about your league that 3 of the Elite 8 teams are from your league?
Let's have Chris take that, and Kavarius and Casey.
Probably just the amount that the other conferences get talked about being the best conference. They don't really give the SEC any credit for being, the best conference. But, we have 3 teams in the Elite 8, so that speaks for itself right there.
Kavarius, same question on the league.
I just feel like kind of proves the point that we actually can compete in terms of being a power conference. Having 3 out of the 8 teams that would be from SEC is proving that we've made it here.
And Casey?
I would say pretty much the same thing they said. It's not just a football school anymore. I think it's slowly turned into becoming, or a football conference. It's slowly turned into a basketball conference.
To the left side of the aisle in the front.
Yeah, for Coach, I'm Mike Bianchi from the Orlando Sentinel. You referenced this last night as well. The SEC is not just a football conference, it's a basketball conference, a gymnastics conference. I'm just wondering, though, it's known as a football conference. Do you think all the revenue and the TV exposure of the SEC network has trickled down to help basketball?
Mike, I'm sorry I can't give you an intelligent answer there. I'm just not informed enough with all that stuff. I can't imagine it's hurt. I can't imagine that the SEC network has hurt in any way with exposure, with recruiting, so on and so forth. But we talked about last night, going back to your initial words. I can speak to Florida more specifically than any other place. This place, we've won a ton of championships. Scott will win a bunch himself. Jeremy Foley won a ton himself. So to call it a football school is, I think, a slap in the face to all those other sports, and to Coach Donovan, who won a couple national championships himself. And we're not the only school. There's a high level of success in all sports in our league. Is football incredible? Absolutely. We love watching it. But SEC basketball is pretty special as well.
On the left side of the aisle, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. A question for either Chris or Casey. Darius Thornwell is kind of the engine that makes South Carolina go. What do you take from guarding him the first 2 times you face South Carolina, and how can that be effective, or can you guys do differently this time around to keep him in check?
Chris first, please, then Casey.
He's a tremendous player. He's the player of the year in our conference. So we know he's going to, get his, but we just try to, not let him get everybody else going as well. Try to put some size and length on him and make it tough for him to get his shots off and limit his open looks, and just try to be physical with him and, trying to limit the ways he can affect the game, because he's an all-around player.
And Casey?
Yeah, just limit his touches, challenge, accept the challenge and compete. That's all it is.
All the way in the back and all the way left.
Casey, you're the only guy left from the Final Four run in 2014. What did you learn from playing with those guys like Patrick Young, and how are you using that to lead your team now?
Just staying in the moment, honestly. Those guys, they were very big on that. They had a lot of experience, a lot of tournament games under their belt, but really just staying in the moment and going out there and competing and trying to play every game like it's your last.
On the right side in the third row, Dana.
Dana O'Neill with ESPN. Mike, it's sort of along the same lines. You know, I think Casey and Frank Martin are the only ones that have been in this position. So for yourself as a coach and for your players, how do you kind of make sure that you're not prisoners of the magnitude of the moment as you prepare for this sort of game?
Dana, nothing changes for us really. People have asked about the big picture and the greater perspective and chance to go to the Final Four and how do you feel, what's going on in your head. I don't know why, but I think my players would agree with me as well that I don't think it's that difficult. Casey just used the terminology, stay in the moment. If we're not focused 100% on preparing as well as we can for South Carolina, then none of it matters. You know, it's a one-game tournament for us. Casey said, treat every game like it's your last. We have a saying on our locker room door. It's the last thing our guys see heading out to practice every day, that you are not promised tomorrow. And that's it. I mean, it's a great opportunity against South Carolina. We'll go back and celebrate the wins and mourn the losses and go back and watch Chris's shot a million times in the spring. But right now it's about the Gamecocks.
We're going to use the left-hand microphone in the back on the right. Josh?
Josh Newman, Asbury Park Press. Mike, does it matter what the perception of this league is as a hoops league from the outside?
I don't, Josh. As the perception continues to increase, and we are more welcomed amongst the higher level leagues in the country. We've been there before, and we're certainly on our way back. In our opinion, I don't think it hurts at all. But honestly, it's not something that I put a lot of stock into. It doesn't affect recruiting much for us. It doesn't. These guys, their approach to East Tennessee State, Virginia, Wisconsin, now South Carolina, that approach has nothing to do with what people say about our league. It really, a lot of it, even if the computer rankings had us first in the country, say mid-next season, which we very well could be, and people continue to say this about the SEC and this about the ACC, Big 12, whatever. I don't know how much any of that matters. I really don't. The selection committee is going to do a terrific job regardless. We're going to be the Florida Gators regardless and do the best we can do.
In the front left, Gene.
Gene Fournette from the Florida Times Union. For Mike and maybe a player or two want to take this question. So much of what people think about Florida's program usually has to do with things like speed and athleticism and playing in transition.
Yeah.
Could you at least address the toughness factor for this team?
Absolutely.
Because that is not something that you generally hear about Florida, but yet Wisconsin touted it in its own program leading into the Sweet 16, and you guys seemed to have that resolved last night.
I appreciate it, Gene, and that means a lot to us. We like to stand for toughness as much as anything, and we just played two of the toughest programs in all of college basketball. What Virginia and Wisconsin have accomplished over the last few years is amazing, and both of those programs pride themselves on defensive intensity and physicality and toughness, and that's what those coaches are known for, and those programs and those players are known for, and they've had tremendous success, of course. This team, this particular team, toughness and togetherness, I think is underappreciated. These guys, these are some tough dudes. These and South Carolina's got some tough dudes as well. But these guys battle. They battle coming off a win, coming off a loss. They battle against each other every day in practice, and they're together. They like each other. It's a tight-knit group. So, again, toughness and togetherness are things that I want these guys remembered for. They certainly deserve that.
And let's hear from Devin and Justin on this one as well. Devin first, please.
I feel like our team has been through a lot of adversity in these past couple of years, and this year especially. And I feel like that brought us together, and a lot of things what Coach said about us hanging our hats in toughness. We compete every day in practice, and we just like to play the game. So I mean, the toughness comes from just going through a lot of adversity and coming together, and just had enough of not being great, you know.
And Justin, can you add to that as well?
Just like, both of these guys said, with us just being tough, that's just one of the, the culture aspects that, we focus on now. And like Devin just said, us, going through a lot of adversity, bring us more closer together and, just helping us be in a tougher group, and, we can depend on each other for that.
We have time for a few more questions for the student athletes before they head to their breakout areas, but we'll take questions for anyone. Len.
Robbins, New York Post. Mike, you mentioned at the very outset about the benefit of the familiarity. Unlike the other teams that South Carolina has faced, you have faced them before. So whether you can simulate it or not simulate it in practice, you faced it. How much of an advantage is that? And conversely, how much better are they right now at doing what they do than they have all season long?
Yeah, sure. Let me start by saying I want to be clear that I think it's an advantage for both of us. I don't think we have an advantage over South Carolina in this preparation at all. In fact, if there's one disadvantage, it's the fact that I'm not sure Chris has even slept yet. We got back so late, and we're not here to make excuses. We got a great opportunity. Our guys will be rested up, and we'll be ready to roll tomorrow. I just think it's fortunate for both of us with the quick turn, because they have a quick turn as well that we're very familiar. That said, they're playing better. I think it's an offensive thing. Somebody asked me earlier, it seems like they're really defending lately. Since the first game of the season, Frank's had his guys in the top 5 in defensive efficiency in the entire country, the entire year. Every time you look at it, they're third, they're second, they're first. They have a really tough week, and they dropped to 4th. I mean, they've been incredible defensively all week. These guys have been as well. It's 2 top 5 defenses in the country. I think the difference in them in the tournament, just looking at their number, they're just shooting the ball better for whatever reason. They seem to be playing with a lot of confidence, led by Thornwell and the way he's scoring it in the tournament. P.J. Dozier's been tremendous in the tournament. They have 5 guys averaging double figures in the NCAA tournament. I mean, so now to complement their unbelievable defense with the way that they're scoring the ball makes for a tough out.
We're going to go to the front right. Mark.
Mark Herman from Newsday. This is Devin and Justin. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you saw from the moment Chris got that ball and started going up court, and what's the most incredible thing you had seen him do before last night?
Devin first, please, then Justin.
I was in the game. I saw him take the ball out. I was all the way in the corner, and I just saw him sprint in front, and Kane passed the ball, and he just sprinted past like 3 defenders. And first I thought he was like throwing it up like for a lob, and I didn't know how much time was. I looked up, and it just kept floating. I was like, oh snap! like this might go in, and it dropped, and I was just like, oh.
Holy snap is gonna overtake Pipe It Up.
Right, it was nuts, and I was just proud for him, happy for him, and I've seen Chris do a lot of things, like in practice and stuff like that, and probably not in the game that he shows off a little bit, but he did a lot of things that a lot of people may not know for a little guy like him. No shots.
Yeah, I was on the sideline during the time, and I just seen him, just go full court, and I knew, he's a fast guy, so I figured, he'd be able to, get down the court in time. And as I was watching, I just seen him, plant and just floated up there from my position. It looked good, and then like when I was just watching the ball, I was just like asking God, please don't let my career be over yet. And it went in, and it was just, everything just broke loose from there. And I seen a lot of crazy things Chelsea's done, like a lot of freakish layups, in practice and all that type of stuff. So, I mean, I think this probably topped, every crazy thing he's done.
We'd like to thank Devin and Justin, Chris, Kavarius, and Casey for joining us here in the main interview room. They're going to head out right now, and they're going to make their way to the breakout sessions. That's in the Delta 360 room here at Madison Square Garden. They'll be escorted by some of our media coordination staff, and if anyone needs directions to that, please ask a member of the media coordination staff. They'll bring you guys down there. The student athletes from Florida that are not headed to the breakout areas are available in their locker room at this time. And for 20 more minutes, we'll be joined by the head coach, Mike White. He's here to take your questions for about 20 more minutes. And we have one with Gene all the way up in the front, and we'll make it through the entire room. Gene first.
Gene Fournette with the Times-Union. Mike, could you talk a little bit about Canyon Barry? Because
Yeah.
he's obviously struggled offensively in the last month, but yet you trusted him to be in the game, particularly on offensive end in that last 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Frankly, he didn't have that good of a game, but in the last 90 seconds, he was huge.
Yeah, we want our best offensive players out there. Canyon's one of our better 2 or 3 offensive players for sure. He's had huge games for us. And in Canyon's defense, when you're being yanked in and out of the game, when you're not playing 12 to 15 consecutive minutes in consecutive halves, it's hard to get into a good offensive rhythm and sometimes to maintain an offensive rhythm if you're in one. But you know he's not over there sulking. He gets in the game late and he makes huge plays. The LeBron-esque block by Canyon James was a huge play. Obviously, while I'm screaming foul him, and he goes and blocks a shot. Was enormous. If he doesn't make that play, we don't win the game, of course. And then we've talked a lot about the last play of the game. I thought it was great recognition by him. We had 2 speed guys in the backcourt, and 2 guys were shading Casey, and they had a big shading Chris, and he made the right play. Could have easily thrown it to Casey, and we wouldn't have gotten a shot up. You know, we probably got a half-court shot up. So great recognition there, great pass, and he continues to make good plays for us.
On the right side near the column.
Hey, Mike, Tom Jones, Tampa Bay Times. Last night was such a tremendous night, but how worried are you where they're going to be emotionally tomorrow? And when, as a coach, do you start addressing that?
Already worried, not going to lie to you, about where our emotions are and our level of mental and physical fatigue. You know, first thing I asked the guys this morning at breakfast, hey, how you feel? Man, my legs are killing me. I'm tired. And I'm sure South Carolina feels that way as well. Our game was a little bit different, of course, and our guys got to sleep a little bit later, and that's what's going on in their head today. So rest today, hydration. Our guys will do massages. Our support staff's off the charts. We'll get at their legs a little bit and try to get some of that lactic acid out. We can't do a ton physically. The goal will be by tomorrow morning to feel, to have some normalcy with that mental and physical fatigue. But it started on the bus last night. As soon as we pull up to the hotel, guys, we're not going to go watch film right now. We're not going to meet. I want you in bed as soon as possible. I don't want to threaten you to take your cell phones away, but we've got to turn them off. We all have a couple hundred texts. Let's return them on Sunday night. Let's go to sleep. And if you keep your phone on, you're not going to go to sleep. That was the message. And our guys have had a business-like approach. We've had a lot of success outside of home this year with our unique schedule, and I'm sure we did a pretty good job of trying to lay it down as much as possible last night.
Staying on the right side with Dana.
Yeah, Mike, I think a lot of people would look at this as an unlikely or an improbable matchup here in this situation. I think people were parsing through their brackets and perhaps didn't pencil you or South Carolina in. Do you use that at all as a motivation, or can you not, since they're even maybe less likely to be here than you are?
Yeah, not with this one, Dana. In the first couple rounds, when everybody picked us to be upset, of course, in the first one, and I don't think many people picked us. And forgive me if I'm speaking to guys that actually did pick us, guys and gals, in the second round against Virginia. It's probably not much of a factor, but as we've talked about, I've answered the question that it's a bullet in the chamber. Why not use it, even if it's 0.001% of the motivational factor to help you prepare for these guys. So we used some of that, some of the film, some newspaper headlines, what have you, in those first couple, but not in this past one, not against Wisconsin, and obviously not tomorrow. It doesn't. We're kind of beyond that.
We're going to use the left side mic on the right of the aisle. Nicole?
Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. Mike, you're going into your first season at Florida, and throughout that first year, so many questions about following Billy Donovan. What does it mean to you, and what has this been like to go on a run like this for you at Florida? And, even if you've changed the culture or gotten your guys in and kind of you feel like it's your program, but for the outside world to see Florida make this run without Billy.
Oh, Nicole, I just haven't given it any thought. I'm just dead honest with you. It's about this team developing and getting better. I'm so happy for our guys. It doesn't. The external stuff just doesn't matter to me. It's the Florida job. I'm blessed to be here. It's a great job. It's a great opportunity. I've got a great group that I'm proud of working with every day, and we want to keep playing together. I do find it very, very rewarding that we're having success and that the buy-in level has increased immensely with the coaching staff, with each other. The togetherness is off the charts. The fight, the toughness has been evident. All those things are really, really rewarding. But in terms of the other stuff, it's just not much thought's going into it, really.
Using the left side mic on the right, Andy.
Mike, how would you describe your sideline demeanor?
Oh, a tough one, Andy. I guess in recruiting, you talk about low majors and mid majors, and not at this level, but I've been at some low majors and some mid majors and high majors. So sometimes we refer to middle of the road stuff as mid major. So I would say mid major. I don't know if I get too animated. I don't know if I'm too calm. I don't know how people would characterize me, and it doesn't really matter to me. I will tell you that I try to be as calm as I can, and I'm not always calm. Sometimes I have success revving our guys up when they need it a little bit, but sometimes I get them a little bit too revved up, and that's it's always you're always searching, you're always evaluating how you're pressing buttons correctly and incorrectly, and with which guy, and not with another guy, and all those type things. I mean, I've been asked about officials a bunch. I think I've been told by third parties that some of our fans wonder why why I don't ride the officials more. Some of the officials say I ride them too much. So who knows? I don't know. I do know, though, as a young coach, I did realize Mark Whitehead, who now does a great job for our league, he gave me great advice. In fact, when he was doing one of our games at Louisiana Tech as a first-year head coach, I was consumed with the officials. It was all about, I'm getting disrespected, we're getting disrespected, they're picking on the young guy. They're just doing the game. They're human beings. They're good officials. And he put his arm around my neck, and during a timeout, he said, the more you're consumed with us, the less you're consumed with your team. Do help your team. And it really hit home, and I try to do that. I don't always do a very good job of that.
All the way in the back on the left.
Pat Dooley, Gainesville Sun. Mike, you talked about the toughness. Last year when you came in, did you find a team that wasn't tough, and did you have a hard time getting them to be tougher, obviously through a season that was not exactly what you'd want it to be?
Yeah, good question, Pat, and I want to be careful. And I know you know how I feel about this already, but I don't want to be I don't want the context to be we weren't very tough. I inherited an untough group. I inherited a group that struggled under a Hall of Famer, that Coach Donovan struggled with and told me that I would struggle with in terms of some entitlement and some immaturities. And great group of guys. I remember I talked to Coach Donovan before my press conference, and he told me, he said, hey, you're going to love these guys. They're great kids, and here's some things that you're going to struggle with, that we struggled with last year. You're going to struggle with it. Here's how you got to get at them. And obviously I was hanging on every word that he said. And that's, they've come a long way. I mean, we've developed, our guys have developed, they've really matured. Some of it's natural, some of it's just natural maturity because sophomores are juniors now and juniors are seniors. And then we've added a couple guys, of course. I think Justin Leon rubbed off on some guys. Kavarius Hayes, I think, has rubbed off on some guys. Casey Hill has made a huge jump just later in his career. I think a sense of urgency has kicked in with his toughness level. Chris Chioza, for whatever reason, as a freshman, just wasn't what he is now. And some of that's natural. And then some of it is a little bit abnormal. I mean, the jump that Devin Robinson has made with his toughness, I hadn't seen much like that. He's He's a guy that he wasn't making a lot of hustle plays early last year, practice or games. He wasn't taking charges. He wasn't flying around the court blocking shots. He's a completely different dude, and that's not we're not taking credit for that. That's Devin Robinson.
We're going to stay on the left side. We're going to go to Mike, and then Jake, and then Gene.
Yeah, Mike. Have you had any conversations with Mike Tranghese since he became the sort of the basketball consultant in the SEC? And what Commissioner Sankey was talking about, just the added commitment to basketball in the SEC. Have you seen that?
Yeah. I have had minimal conversation with Mike at SEC meetings. We've texted actually a little bit back and forth here recently, just small talk. I know that he's a tremendous addition to the SEC staff, and I don't even understand all of the ways, but I know that he's had incredible success in college basketball, of course. He's been a great leader. He's got an incredible reputation. Have they enhanced the brand, Greg and Mike and those guys? Was that the second question, Mike?
Have you noticed more of a commitment? I don't know how you noticed that, but
I imagine there's been a lot of talk of it. I think our staff is really talented right now. Again, Mark Whitehead's terrific. I said this to Mark, not so he'd help me with a couple calls or a couple signing the right guys to me. When I was a young head coach, not knowing what the heck's going on, still learning on the fly, of course, I thought Mark Whitehead was the best official in the country. I thought he was off the charts. He didn't miss a call. His demeanor was incredible. And now he's heading these officials and mentoring them and educating them. So I don't know how that hurts. I think it's got to really help. Dan Leibovitz has been incredible too. Mike and Greg. I mean, I think that there's a strong commitment. I really do. There's been a lot of conversation. I've had a lot of conversation with Greg. I've had a lot of conversation with Dan Leibovitz. He's been on campus a bunch. Greg's been at a bunch of our games. So I think that it's in their best interest to do whatever they've got to do to figure this thing out to help the SEC become the best basketball league in the country.
Across the aisle, Jake.
Jake Winterman, ESPN Gainesville. Coach, first time you played South Carolina, no points for the first 4 minutes. A couple SEC coaches have compared it to honestly playing a football game in terms of their physicality.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate report? And secondly, when was the last time you've talked to Coach Martin just in general?
I talked to Coach Martin briefly at the ACC tournament, ran into him in the hallway. We had a nice 15-minute conversation. I've always admired the job that he does. Jake, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through this thing. Unlimited sleep. What was the first question? Help me out. You talked about the first matchup. Yeah, I mean, the first media at 0-0. And I remember talking to our guys. I looked up the scoreboard. I turned around to one of my assistants. I said, "Is the score right? Is no one scored yet?" Incredible. We go 0 of 17 from 3 and shot 50 from the foul line and had a chance. We actually defended better at their place. And then at our place, we made shots. We struggled to guard Thornwell in both games. Their physicality, it's similar to Virginia and Wisconsin. Now they're quicker and they're faster. They throw more guys at you. There's more athleticism. They pressure the ball more. It's a different brand of defense. It's unique. They overplay everything. I mean, everyone knows it. I'm not giving away any secrets. You can't run offense against South Carolina, against Frank Martin. You can't. They take you out of everything that you want to do. They make basketball players make basketball plays. We got to play with poise. We've got to play with incredible mental toughness offensively, which is a little bit different than most defenses that you see. We give ourselves a chance.
Up front, Gene.
Mike, Gene Fournette. How do you account for the discrepancy on the offensive end, other than the fact that one game's at your place and the other one's on the road? How do you account for why your offense was so much more consistent in Gainesville?
That's a great question. We didn't do a lot different, Gene. We really didn't. We added a couple little wrinkles. Neither worked. I thought our guards played with good poise. I think we had 4 charges at their place, but we had 2 again in Gainesville. So we still played out of control at times, but over the course of the 40, more so under control. Shared the ball. We had a little bit better ball movement. Probably had to do with the fact that we had however many thousand people screaming at us in Columbia. we seemed a little bit rattled offensively at their place. And sometimes you know how it is. Even if you get a few or a couple open looks and you start 0 for 7, that thing can just, that thing can just keep going on you. And at our place, it probably helped just making a couple early and settling in. I remember Kayvon hit a transition 3 really quick in the game, and anytime Kayvon hitting shots for us, our guys can take a deep breath.
On the right side, Andy.
Mike, you had a great moment last night with your dad. He's incredibly connected, obviously, in college athletics at the highest level. How critical was it for you to create your own path, your own identity by going to La Tech and finding your own way without relying on him?
Good question, Andy. First off, for those that know my dad really well, they tell you he's a much better guy than he is, an administrator and networked guy and things like that. He's accomplished a ton, but as a family member, as a father, as a brother, that's where I'm most proud of him. He's just he's been an incredible example, and I could give you 100 different examples on why he's a great example. But I don't know that it was overly important for me to do something different. It is a little bit rewarding, though. There were times when I thought, high school, college, I may go work for him. I might become an athletic director. I might be selling tickets at Tulane, Arizona State, and figure that thing out. And it would have been great, it would have been really, really neat. And my brothers they're experiencing the administrative side of things and both doing really well. I just loved the game, and I couldn't leave the game alone. There were a few times as a young assistant that I actually considered going that other way. I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to be a head coach. It's what I really want to do. And I just did my best to stay the course, and then comes a call from Bruce Vandevelde at Louisiana Tech, and I was really, really fortunate. It's not like we were coming off a Sweet 16 run at Ole Miss. When he called and he said, "Would you have interest?" I said, "I'll start running to Ruston right now. I've never been there. I don't care. I want to be a head coach. I want to run my own program." And I just been really, really fortunate, of course. I had an unbelievable group at Louisiana Tech. Love those kids to death. And obviously, Mike and Jeremy extended the opportunity here in Gainesville. It's been a whirlwind.
We have time for one more question for Coach White, if there is one. We'd like to thank Coach White for joining us, and enjoy practice today, and good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, guys, very much.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, brother.
Congrats.
Thank you.
How come you never identify yourself? And don't go that way. I'll make sure he's nice to you. Be nice to Kristen. Yes. I know.
And actually, John said, I turned to John, I go, Andy said he's not coming today, and he also offered his team. He goes, that was very nice of him. I'm going to leave it where it is. That was very nice.
There you go. Very super nice.
We like nice people. All right, I'm going to
Okay.
grab my charger.
Kristen, do we have names from Emily?
Let me give you that. I want to grab my charger.
No, yeah, good.
I not only do you have names, I already have the table cut, so you go.
Amazing. Hi. Yeah. It's their 5 starters are coming here, and then to breakouts. If you're looking for not a starter, they're in the locker room. Who, Len? Yeah.
Is that a special request?
He's famous for that. How come? How come if a 10-year-old gets a two-part question, it's an issue, but if a 50-year-old 10-year-old gets a two-part question?
There we go.
Here. What's that? Last year, I met him at Barclays Center, just like I met Dave like yesterday and whatever. I just meet people. I don't know any of you.
Here you go.
We're not friends. Where are we? No. Oh, nice.
I'm gonna go get my charger.
Oh boy, why do they gotta give me a hard one here? Is it Kotazar? Kotzar. I think I just wrote it funny. I'll be back.
You know what's amazing?
But
Yeah. You know? Crazy, right?
Dave, where are you from? I was in Charleston for New Year's. Have they recovered? Have they gotten all the food and beverages back that I consumed like a locust? I was there for, I think, 3 days, my girlfriend and I, for New Year's, and we ransacked the town. Yeah, it was one amazing place after another. I didn't realize it until I became one.
The food is amazing.
Yeah, I boosted their economy. Yeah, I bet that's. Yeah, I think I left. I think I left my phone charger there. I think I may need to go back.
I think I need to visit. It's only 50 miles.
Yeah,
I need to visit that location.
it's only 13 hours. I think I can do it in a weekend. My parents are about 45 minutes north of Myrtle Beach. Holden Beach, it's called.
Their party house.
Yeah, they have a good time. And then my grumpy grandfather is Gene Cady, and he has a place in Myrtle Beach also. Yeah. Yeah, from there to Hilton Head in the south, right? Coach Kremens is there. Yeah, everybody's. It's nice. Start hitting the palm trees and all that. We had some kind of steak on King Street, like all the way, toward the top or something like that. I can't even remember what it was called. I think it was somebody's name. I want to say Jack Ruby's, but that's Louisville. But it was a place like that. Definitely had grits. I'm not a shrimp guy, but I had grits. High cotton. We had high cotton breakfast. And we were watching basketball. We watched ACC basketball we sat at the bar and had breakfast and watched Carolina. Yeah. I'm glad they've recovered. Hmm? Pretty much whoever has their hand up. We'll probably pass. Probably pass on that, but. That's true, but they won't turn it on unless I tell them which one it is. It's a coin toss, but. Why are you all the way over there? I guess that's a legitimate answer. Now. Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, we'll be joined by South Carolina head coach Frank Martin, as well as student athletes Mike Kotsar, Chris Silva, Sindarius Thornwell, Dwayne Notice and PJ Dozier. The student athletes will be with us here in the main interview room for a period of 20 minutes. Then the 5 starters are going to make their way to the breakout rooms in the Delta Club here at Madison Square Garden. The student athletes not featured here in the main interview room or in the Delta Club are available in the South Carolina locker room. It's open at this time. Okay. We can start with Coach. Afternoon, Coach.
How are you? Didn't we just do this a little while?
I think so. I think so. This is an afternoon that feels like morning. How you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Doing well. Did you get any sleep?
No. That's all good.
Do you need any caffeine?
I am so loaded up on caffeine right now.
Are you okay?
Junior.
Junior. How you doing? Let's take this and put it in the cup here. I got some.
Wait, I have a holding spot.
You good? And Darius, I got your cup right here. Hold on.
You got enough room, big guy?
I didn't see it.
I'm just glad you're sitting next to me. I look better.
Oh, Coach, you all right?
Holy cow. I just spilled that everywhere, didn't I? Look younger. Better
Good afternoon
complexion.
once again, everyone. We're joined right now by the head coach of South Carolina, Frank Martin, as well as student athletes Mike Kotsar, Chris Silva, and Darius Thornwell, Dwayne Notice, and PJ Dozier. Their teammates are in the locker room, which is open at this time. And we're looking for a couple of opening comments from Coach Martin. Then we'll take questions for anyone you have them for. Coach.
Where's my guy from last night?
Max.
He'll be back tomorrow, maybe.
He'll be back? I got to tell you now, when that young man asked the question he asked yesterday, and I'm not trying to get any national attention on this. My SID told me that it's become like a story. I wish I can express myself like that when I was his age. I'm telling you, that is as articulate and good a question as I've been asked all year. That was powerful stuff. No, that's easy. That's easy. You tell Andy I said that too. No, obviously when you're one of the teams that have an opportunity to still play at this time of year, you're fortunate that as a coach you get to practice and play with guys like these 5 that are with me, and it's a whole lot of fun. Gators know us, we know them. We had to rehearse some stuff today. We'll continue to rehearse some things later on tonight at the hotel. This time of year, it's all the mind. You got to be mentally prepared for what's coming. We're excited. I know they are. And then we just got to go out and figure it out. Round 3, you know. One of them, you know, we got the first, they got the second. Now we're at the neutral site. Let's see what happens.
If you have a question for Coach Martin or the student athletes, just raise your hand. Let's start right here on the left with Dave.
David Cloninger with the State. Frank, you mentioned last night that you didn't want to make the same mistake as the last time you were in this position. Could you just go through that story again about what happened, before the K-State Butler game in 2010?
You coach.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the situation Florida was in last night. We were in Salt Lake City. We had the last game of the night, and it happened to go into double overtime. We got back to a hotel 2:30 in the morning. We were assigned the practice time. We could have chosen to practice at a different site, but we don't play at those other sites. So I wanted to practice at the facility, and they gave us the time they gave us. And we found out that the Kentucky West Virginia game was picked to be the game put on the prime time hour. So then they made our game the first game out of the chute. So that means that we tipped off at Salt Lake. I'm getting old. I don't remember things as well as I need to. I want to say about 1 p.m. Salt Lake time. So less than 36 hours after we arrived at our hotel, we were back playing Butler, which, by the way, was everyone's darling because it was Butler. They were the only team there that had 2 NBA players on their roster. And we had to go play them. And we sleptwalked the whole first half. And I'll never forgive myself because that practice, I had a group just like these guys that just lay it on the line and give you everything they got. And in that in-between practice, because of the time we got back, how soon we had to play, we went on the court and we did nothing but shoot balls and walk through things. And that's not the way we practice. You can ask them. We don't practice that way. And I told myself, if I'm ever in the same situation, I've got to practice our guys the way that we've trained for 6 months, not any way differently. That's what happened then.
Staying on the right side, let's go with Dana.
Dana O'Neill with ESPN. Frank, in this situation, is ignorance bliss, or do you have to sort of guard against them being overwhelmed by the moment?
We're playing the team we know. We're not playing the moment. We're not playing a building. We're not playing the NCAA tournament. We're playing Florida Gators. And our focus should be playing a team that we've played twice, playing a team that we beat and playing a team that beat us too. So we'll be humbled because of the opponent, because there's respect there. We'll be very confident in who we are. And I know I trust these guys. Dana, these guys didn't hide when we couldn't beat the chairs you're sitting on. They're definitely not going to hide now that they have confidence that we're a good team.
On the right side in the front, Adam.
Adam Zagoria, for Coach or any of you guys, what's the most disrespectful thing you heard anyone say about the SEC this year, whether from a reporter or a pundit or somebody, and what has the league shown by getting 3 teams to the Elite Eight?
I'll take it because I don't know if they read the media.
Yeah,
I do.
I don't know.
You know, they're worried about me and themselves. I don't know that they worry too much about what people say about our league. I'll use an example, and it happened during the conference tournament. Kentucky beat Alabama in the semifinals. Alabama had just beaten us the night before. And Kentucky beat Alabama in an absolute brawl. Just a game that came down to the very end. And the opinion was, well, Kentucky just sneaks by again. They're playing with fire. When they play real competition, it's going to burn them. That's disrespectful. That's somebody that, and that's the kind of rhetoric that exists out there, not just for the first time. It's just consistently, and it gets old and boring. But there's only one way to change it, and it's by doing what these guys are doing. We can sit and cry and mope and complain and blame. They're not about that, and I'm not about that. I just let people know I don't appreciate that negativity, but the only way to get people to shh is by doing what these guys have done.
Left side of the aisle, David.
Listen, Darius, PJ, if you both could take this. You guys have talked this whole run about not succumbing to the pressure because there is no pressure. I mean, a lot of people were picking against you. Now that the Final Four is on the line, do you sense that pressure coming back, and do you pay it any attention?
No, we still don't feel like it's pressure because we're still getting picked against, and we're still going in as the underdog, and so when you're going in as the underdog, you don't have any expectations on anything. So we just playing free and having fun.
Just a sense that we come out to compete. No matter what anyone says, we come out as the underdogs. So just as he said, there's really no pressure.
Next question's in the second row, Larry.
For Coach Martin, people characterize your defense as very physical, but having faced Florida twice and with that familiarity, how would you characterize their defense?
Very similar. Very similar. It's I find it funny that they say that we're a physical basketball team, and so is Florida, defensively and offensively. We're not physical because we foul and push. We're physical because we don't get out of the way. Some teams get out of the way. We don't get out of the way. We just don't let you push us. But we're not trying to foul. That's not what we do. We don't give up on plays. We're constantly rotating, constantly talking. But Florida's very similar. Different techniques. They switch a lot. They use unbelievable size to their advantage. They don't get out and deny as aggressively as we do. But the end result's pretty, different ways of doing things to get the same kind of result. But at the end of the day, they're also very physical defensively, very disciplined. They don't get out of the way. They don't, you might get a basket here and there and make you think, okay, here it goes, and they just stay with it. A lot like us.
On the right side in the third row.
Gene Sapicott from the Charleston Post and Courier. Hey, Frank, can you say a few things about your assistant coaches, and do you think a run like this can help a guy like Matt, get some good, decent looks as a head coach?
Yeah, Fig's it's just a matter of time. We made a run at Kansas State, and my strength coach, Scott Greenewalt, Matt Figger, Andy Astley, Brad Underwood, all those guys were with us. And then we came here, and the same group, same exact staff that we had over there. Those guys signed up, and we have an unbelievable amount of loyalty towards one another. And that consistency that we have as a staff, I think, relays to all the players. They see how consistent we are, how loyal we're to one another, so it makes them be loyal to each other and loyal to everything that we do. But Matt, Perry Clark's on my staff. Perry's phenomenal in helping me. Perry's won 400 games as a head coach. PC stays in my ear. Like, everyone thinks that your assistants just sit there and agree with the head coach. PC's job is, he's not thin-skinned to telling me what he thinks I'm doing wrong and me not agreeing with him. He doesn't sit there and pout. That's why he's so good at what he does, how much he helps me. Matt Figger is going to unbelievable head coach as soon as he's given the opportunity. I think Brad Underwood has shown that he's pretty good at it. I go back to my high school days. I had 6 assistant coaches in my high school team become head high school coaches. I take a lot of pride. I give those assistants a lot of responsibilities. They'll tell you, the assistants run the scouting reports, not me. They do. I'm there to support them in the scout. I'm trying to help them prepare to become head coaches. I ask them to teach. I ask them to coach. Bruce Shingler, who's on our staff, he's my new guy. Bruce was a GA for me at K-State my first year as a head coach. He's phenomenal in his own way. I'll tell you funny stuff about Bruce. He's very soft-spoken. But there's a guy on our team that gets him aggravated all the time. And we'll be in drills, and if I'm on that side of the court, we don't even have to look. We hear Bruce's voice. We know who's in the drill. So we've got a phenomenal staff. Those guys, I'm not real smart. I work hard. I'm not real smart. That's why I end up trusting in people, and I surround myself with people that know what they're doing so they can help me, and most importantly, help these guys over here.
About 5 minutes before the student athletes go to the breakouts, let's go to the left. Andy?
For Sindarius and PJ, what's the biggest difference in the manner in which you guys are able to close out games this season as compared to the end of last season?
Sindarius first, then PJ.
I think it's just a matter of everybody just learning from the experience. Every year we've gotten better at something when it comes to games. Every year, we've won more games, and this year I think it's just a matter of not wanting to lose those close games at the end and learning how to finish games, and I think that's really it.
Just as Sin said, I think it's definitely the experience. Last year our leadership was really good, but this year I think our leaders now, learn from those experiences and are now able to lead the team, to finish a game.
Toward the back on the left, Kevin.
Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. Frank, you went through a stretch in late February where you felt like your defense was off a little bit and you guys weren't getting out on some shooters when you played Florida the last time. Just how did you guys solve that into March and get back to defending at a high level?
We just went through something every team goes through. We slipped a little bit. We weren't off by a lot. It wasn't our attitudes. We just slipped a little bit. We played real good teams on the road. Played Florida at the road, played Vanderbilt on the road, played Ole Miss on the road. And all those teams, it gets back to the first question about the whole SEC situation. Played Arkansas at home. They got real good guards, and they attack you, and they're hard guards. We just slipped a little bit, and those guys made hard like we lost Alabama at home. They had 2 players that combined averaged 9 points a game. They scored 44 that day. Just some guys scored baskets that it happens. And we started getting right again that game at Florida. We still weren't there, but that's the game where we started getting right again, where I thought we were starting to do things the right way again. It all starts guarding the basketball. When we guard the ball the right way, and our ball screen coverage is good, then we keep the ball from getting the paint. If the ball doesn't get the paint, then you don't have to rotate the shooters. And that's where we have to continue to work at every single day.
We'll use the left-hand microphone to the right, Mike.
Yeah, Mike Bianchi with the Orlando Sentinel. Coach, I believe you got a big raise to come to South Carolina. I'm just wondering the revenue stream in the SEC now with the SEC network. Obviously, football generates a lot of revenue. Is that trickling into basketball now? Can you address just how much commitment and resources SEC schools are putting toward basketball?
I understand your question, but why'd you have to bring up the fact that I got a raise to go to South Carolina? What's that have to do with anything?
I'm sure some of that resource money was
Have you ever taken another job for less money?
absolutely not.
So why would you have to bring that one up? If I had lost, I wouldn't have a job. It's part of the deal. I don't know where that part came from, but I don't know. I read something the other day where after we beat Duke, our merchandise jumped by 320%. I remember at K-State, after my first year as a head coach, not the year I was Huggs' assistant, we had Beasley and those guys. The following year, we set a school record for total number of applicants and the most minority applicants in the history of the school. It's powerful. It's powerful. It's an unbelievable platform, and these guys, when you take care of your business like these guys have, and you use the opportunity that this university is providing these young men, and they do it the right way, the way they're doing it. Now, I'm not speaking about they do it differently than other teams. I'm just speaking about the guys that play for me. They're setting themselves up for life. If you're a business person that has season tickets and you're watching these guys play 35 times a year, and you see the fact that they go in the community and they set school records for community service, how involved they are in the community, they're getting hired. The day they're done, the day they say, I don't feel like playing ever again, they're set up for life. That's what it's about. And it's a two-way street. Everyone benefits from the way your teams play. It's no different than any other business out there. People don't work, the business fails. You end up losing your job, bankrupt, whatever. When everyone works in the same direction, everybody benefits from the situation, and that's what's happening right now. I'm right in the middle of this whole thing right now, so I really don't know. I know I can tell you this: our attendance has gone from 3,000 the first game I ever coached in the building to averaging 14,000 a game. So obviously, there's more revenue being generated in attendance. I got to think that because of our success, we all know how this works. You get teams in the NCAA tournament, it means more money for each institution in your conference, more money for your own institution as you move through the tournament. So from all those standpoints, I think it all adds up, and everyone has a better. You realize the platform these guys have right now? Being able to sit here and speak to you, speak to the world, play the way they play, show the world how hard and committed, how hard they play, how committed they are. If I'm an employer, I'm giving them a job. It's an unbelievable platform that they have right now.
We have time for one more question for the student athletes, if there is one, before they head to their breakouts. Adam, is yours for the student athletes?
Chris, have you talked to Isaiah Briscoe in the last day or so? Have you guys texted, and what does it mean that both you guys are in the Elite Eight? And can you talk about the dunks where he would throw it off the backboard at Roselle Catholic and you'd throw it down?
So that's why we can't get him to dunk the ball. We got to throw it off the backboard.
Yeah, we just talked yesterday, and we keep talking and stay in contact. Everybody like each other doing. And
what did he say? What did you say?
He asked me played. I said I think I play all right, and I asked him how he played. He told me he played good, and that's it. That was like a signature game, when we dominate and we having fun, and when he's in fast break, he always know I'm gonna run behind him, so he got tore off the board. Yeah.
We want to thank Mike and Chris and Darius, Dwayne, and PJ for joining us. They're going to head down the hall to the breakout areas. They're going to be in the Delta Club here at Madison Square Garden. They'll take your questions down there. Video recording is allowed. Social media recording and publishing is allowed in those areas. And their teammates are in the South Carolina locker room for the next 20 minutes to take your questions as well. First question for Coach Martin is going to go over toward the column. Nicole has it right there.
Hey, Mike Bianchi, by the way, I did change jobs for less money. I used to make 32 grand as a school teacher, and I left to go to Northeastern for 28 grand. Just so you see how smart I am.
Nicole, go ahead.
Yeah, Frank, Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. You know how hard it is to win basketball games anywhere, but especially in this league. What has it been like, just from a coach to a coach standpoint, to see what Mike's been able to do, replacing a legend in Billy Donovan and getting this program to where it is so quickly?
Mike's tremendous. Mike is real good. Mike was Andy Kennedy's assistant, and Andy and I are extremely good, close friends. So I got to know Mike. Obviously, we all know who his dad is. He's just an unbelievable human being. But I got to know Mike through Andy. And Mike is just real good. He's letting the world realize how good he is. Because I sat around, realize when Billy got it started at Florida, his first two real good players he signed played for me in high school. Anthony Grant, who's my son's godfather, was Billy's assistant. So I'm very, very close with that situation. And I always said, poor guy, whoever replaces Billy. Oh, my God, poor guy. Mike's been unreal. We're talking about this year, the way he did it last year, and he won. Now he's got those guys playing through his eyes. That's powerful stuff. That shows the kind of leadership ability that he has, the kind of staff that he has. Mike's one of those guys he's not a rising star. He is a star in this business. And unfortunately, we got to play each other because I root for him a lot.
To the left of the aisle, Len.
Len Robbins, New York Post. Speaking of jobs, the young man from Sports Illustrated Kids yesterday asked you about defense. Is it attitude or technique? And you said, best question, right? You said attitude. So in a day and age where kids want dunks and 25, how do you get your kids to play on that end the way you get them to play?
This is something I ask our players all the time, and I usually do it at the beginning of the year. You know, I said, are there more good NBA teams or bad NBA teams? And they sit around, they're like, I said, seriously, do more teams have winning records or losing records in the NBA? They say losing records. I said, okay. Pick a guy on any of those teams that have a losing record and a guy that you think is no good. And they'll call out names, and I'll say, all right, if I bring that guy in this gym, he's beating you guys 15-0, every single one of you, one after the other. So it's not a talent thing. There's a lot of individually talented people in this world. It's about committing to one another. It's about playing for each other. It's about challenging each other to make each other great. That's what it's about. You got to connect. So that's how we preach. And if you focus in on the guy that's scoring points for you, then the other guys feel left out. But if you make it about the unity of everyone succeeding together, we use defense to sell that. And then that mindset that we use defensively then funnels to how we teach offense. And that's the way it's worked for me since 1985, and I'm too stubborn to change.
Staying in that same area, Andy.
Oh, I didn't know Andy was here. I was just lying about you losing your job.
Snuck in. Frank, how would you describe the run that you've been on this last week and a half?
Unbelievable. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I never expected this to happen. I don't sit around. I dream a lot. I dream about what if and what and how about that one day. I usually do that early in the mornings when I wake up, and I'm having a cup of coffee by myself before I get my kids going, just to make me understand that I have to take advantage of that day in front of me. And you're never going to achieve any dreams if you doubt, if you shortcut, if you have negativity. So that's kind of what gets me going every day. That's how I kind of get my days going. And I dreamt of South Carolina being in this moment, but then I don't go about my job every day acting like we're getting there right now. It's this is the day, this is the year, and I just take advantage of the next day, and that's what I try to tell our players. I can't tell them this, but I'm on an unbelievable ride right now. These kids have have just refused to not believe. They've refused to listen to outside voices, and they've committed to each other. And because of that, it's we're in an unbelievable moment right now. And I know I haven't slept well for the last 10, 12 days. That's okay. It's all right. I got plenty of time to sleep in April and May. It's and I owe it to them to give them every ounce of energy I have left so we can make the season finish off whatever. Andy, there's only two alternatives here. We're either going to celebrate unbelievable tomorrow night or we're going to cry real hard. There's no in between. It's one or the other. And that's what happens when you invest as much as these kids have invested in it.
On the left side.
Coach Ralph Russo, Associated Press. Florida obviously had an endgame situation that worked out pretty well for them last night, and they didn't have a timeout to call. I'm wondering what goes into your decision-making when you get those end games, you have a timeout in your pocket, and you're trying to decide, do I let the kids play, or do I try to set something up and call a timeout?
What's the score? There's a lot of situations. I mean, we can anytime we're tied, I'm not calling a timeout. If we're down 1, probably not calling a timeout. That's kind of the way we rehearse. If we're down 3, we're going to foul inside of 7, 8 seconds to go. But there's a whole lot of different situations. You call a timeout to go the length of the court. It allows the defense to do a better job of setting up so people can get their matchups, and then they can double your point guard and all that other stuff. If you don't call a timeout, you can get the defense scrambling a little bit. And I think that's kind of what happened last night. So I don't know. It's, sometimes you do exactly what you're trained to do and you get a perfect shot and that thing does not go in the hole. Sometimes you get a broken play and the guy jumps off sideways 1 foot and throws it over his shoulder and it goes in the net. And you can rehearse a lot, but at the end of the day, things have to go your way and breaks have to go your way. And all of a sudden we look a lot smarter when that happens than we really are sometimes.
On the right side in the back.
Hey, Coach. Coley Harvey, ESPN. Kind of sticking to that theme of getting a team scrambling, so to speak. Sindarius said last night that he felt like you guys were in Baylor's head all night. Simple question. How does a team do that for 40 minutes?
Players have a different feel than coaches from that standpoint, like getting in people's heads. Because they're on the court. They can hear what conversations the players are having amongst teammates and all that stuff. So they get a different feel than us on the sideline. I'm always worried about how teams are trying to attack us so I can prepare our guys if something's hurting us. After the first 8-9 minutes of the game or so, I kept telling my assistants, if we don't start fouling and we keep rebounding, Baylor's going to struggle to score tonight. That was just the feel I got from the sideline. I felt that we were on, not because of them, because of us. I thought we were on point with our on-ball defense. I thought we were on point with our ball screen coverage. I thought we were doing such a good job on the perimeter that it was making it hard for them to get Motley the ball close to the basket. They run certain plays to get Motley the ball in the post that we tried to prepare our guys for. Mike Kotsar was unbelievable in knowing the play was coming, reading it, and beating them on the cut. So that way Motley couldn't get his catch in his spot. The times he did get it in his spot, we had help rotations that we had in place, and those rotations were as clean as they can possibly be. So 8-9 minutes into the game, if we didn't start getting lazy or hand checking or ball screen coverage kept being clean, I said, if we can keep this up, we've got a chance to make it hard for them to score. That was just the feel I got. Then we went to the zone, and our zone was pretty good, kind of slowed them down. They had to pass a lot before they shot, which made them eat clock, and kept them away from just spacing and driving. So that was my feel on the game. The players probably maybe heard some of the conversations amongst the other players or something. I don't know. I just know our guys were on point. They were really, really doing the things we asked them to do in practice.
We do have a few more minutes for questions for Coach Martin, and when Coach Martin's finished in here, he won't have time for a gaggle or a scrum, unfortunately, but there's one up there for Mike.
Yeah, Coach Mike Bianchi with the Orlando Sentinel again. I want to follow up on a question I asked earlier, just about the SEC network. Obviously, just came into being 2 or 3 years ago. A lot of money goes into that, a lot of exposure, not just for football, but for basketball. How has that helped you? And I believe the SEC, 9 of the top 20 schools in the country, SEC has the top athletic budget. Just talk about the revenue that goes into basketball now.
I don't know if I like the story you're trying to write. I'm not a bookkeeper. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. Obviously, all the leagues are collecting unbelievable money from television revenue. Oh, then no doubt. So what do you think that makes the SEC? Pretty darn good. You know what I mean? People don't pay for bad products. So obviously our league is doing things across the board. Everyone wants to talk about our football. Football's pretty good. Go look at how many national championships have been won in all the other sports. It's pretty darn good across the board. So it's a powerful conference, and obviously it's appealing. Television wouldn't pay that much money for schools that people have no interest in watching. So it's got to be fairly appealing for that to happen. Our school's not taking the money and investing it into, I don't know, a nice flower garden in back of someone's house. We have an unbelievable academic facility that costs millions and millions and millions of dollars. I can't speak for other schools. We lead the SEC in graduation rate, APR rate, all the academic numbers. I want to say it's 8 consecutive years because we've hired unbelievable people to help prepare our young people to be successful in life. Those are the kind of I've been at Northeastern, where there wasn't a lot of revenue generated, so there was not a lot of money invested into basketball. And there was 250 student athletes in study hall with one person. And then as a coach, you tried to get involved and you were told you can't because there was concerns for academic fraud. So one person to help 250, how can you be successful there? You understand what I'm saying? So, that's the thing with the big schools. And our school is part of a league that generates serious revenue. And the schools are reinvesting a lot of money into making the whole situation better for the guys on our team.
All the way on the right in the back.
Frank, Mike Wilson, SEC Country. One thing I've noticed about your players is how they all call you Frank instead of Coach or Coach Martin. Why is it that you like that from them?
It's not that I like it. You see, everyone that acts like they know me really know nothing about me. And they want to use whatever they see to create their story, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. That doesn't aggravate me. I started coaching when I was 19 years old. I tore my ACL the year before. My high school coach asked me to come help him because the kids in the neighborhood respected me so much. So I coached for 16 years in high school, 14 of the 16 in the same neighborhood I grew up in. So that means I was coaching the kids of people I grew up with in the same community that hadn't I got to say it because there's no other way to say it, where people didn't have 2 pots to piss in, okay? But that community is what gave me a way to get out, what helped raise me. So I had to go back and coach the sons, the younger brothers of people I grew up with. If I didn't coach those guys, and they knew me as Frank. I was Frank. I was not Coach. I was Frank because I was their guy from the neighborhood. If I didn't coach those kids, I didn't have to worry about the scoreboard. It's going to be the people showing up at my house that rip my head off for disrespecting their brothers, their kids, their children. So I had to do my part. But I started coaching as Frank because I was coaching dudes that I grew up with. And it's just continued. It's no big deal. I understand respect. I don't call a person I don't know by their first name. And I teach them to do that. I recruit them. I live with them. What am I to do? Tell them they got to call me coach, and that gives me a different platform, makes me feel important? I'm trying to help them find success. And this is the way I learned when I was a young adult and helping the young people in my life find success so my feelings don't get hurt, And now there's sometimes I'm walking down the street and some guy comes up, hey, Frank. If they're nice, I'm nice. If they're rude, They probably get a look they don't like very much. It's, pretty consistent. But I got to, that's how I started. And I did that for 16 years, and I'm not going to change because I'm older. I am who I am.
And Coach Martin, we have a question in the back on the left.
Yep.
Mark Dofer with WYFF out of Greenville, South Carolina. Despite some of the obvious rivalries in the state, we saw it with Coastal Carolina baseball, the state sort of pulling the rope in the same direction. I think part of your fan base understood that it was good when Clemson won the national championship in football, pulling the rope in the same direction. Do your players have a sense that that's going on now? Because it's all over social networking, people saying this is great for the Palmetto State. Do they get a sense of that?
I really haven't spoken to them about that. When the season ends, then we get to talking about some of those things. We do some great things as a team, which we haven't done since January. We call them team talks, and we sit down and we'll talk for 2 hours, 1 hour, however long they want to speak for, on social issues, nothing to do with basketball. And I've learned a lot about them in those conversations. I'm sure when the season's over, we'll engage in some of those talks, but it's awesome for our state. What Coastal did, the attention they brought, the success that they brought to our state, what Clemson did, we're not there yet, but we've brought a lot of attention to our basketball program. That's also a plus for our state. So all those things are positives. Anytime you do things like that, you're bringing positivity to the people that you live with, your neighbors, your community, and that's what it's all about in our state.
We have two on the right, and that'll wrap things up. Let's start just to the right of the aisle.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. I just wanted to know I just wanted to get a feeling for your core coaching values or tenets that have been with you from the beginning.
Passion, and it's when I go into kids' homes, it's the way like when I go back to my high school, which I do all the time, I never go see the teachers that made it easy on me. The ones that just kind of let me get by, I got no time for them. I liked it when I was 17 years old, but I got no time for them as a grown man now. I go back and I hug and kiss every single one that held accountability way up here and would never let me off the hook. So when I go in kids' homes and I recruit, what I tell their parents is, you guys might be mad at me sometimes. I'm okay with that. But the one thing you never have to worry about me is that I'm going to lie or I'm going to cheat your child. Neither one of those two things are ever happening. And that's who I am. That's who I am. That's what I try to invest in them, to be honest. See, I got 4 core values I live my life by, and I run our teams by, I run my family with: honesty, loyalty, trust, and love. And the only way to get to love is if you experience the other 3. When you get to love, that gets strong. I don't care what storm comes through, you're not breaking love. But if you get to love without the other 3, you let that thing go right away. So you got to go through the first 3, and that's the only way you get to love. And that's what I live by. I run my family by that, and I try to coach our guys that way, to get them to that place in life. That's why people see Sindarius and they say, our relationship has gotten to love because we've gone through the first 3 stages already.
We'd like to thank Coach Martin for joining us. He's going to head directly to some NCAA media obligations, so he won't have time for a gaggle following this one. But thank you, Coach, for joining us for these 40 minutes.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow, Coach.
Mike, that's a true story. 28 grand.
That's what the press conference moderator makes, too, Coach, for the weekend. What kind of phone is this? Can I get the PA turned way up? If somebody's missing a phone, I'll just make an announcement.